Yo, 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 yo! What's up, all you burners, stoners, and potheads? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there? Mrs. Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
Holding Yuki in your arms tonight, huh?
I am.
How the hell are you?
I don't think she's going to sleep like she did last week. Fingers crossed.
Yuki, mascot, how you doing? Hey, everybody out in the world. Hopefully you're doing great. Hopefully you're smoking some big fat doinks while you're listening to the show. Thank you all out there in the world for all the DMs and emails we've been getting. We really appreciate everything out there. We got a great article write-up, didn't we, Mrs. Weedman?
We did. It was super exciting.
Yes, we want to give a thank you to Emily at 97ZOK.
Or Zoc.
Or Zoc, the
Zoc.
Rockford station here in Illinois. We appreciate you. And the title was Weed My Lips. Illinois husband and wife's dope podcast is a big hit. I'm touched.
Yeah. It was super, super neat.
Yes. Emily, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For the write-up. 97 Zoc, Zook, ZOK. We appreciate you very much for letting Emily write this about us, and we love it. It touched my heart.
Pretty cool. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you, Emily. Appreciate it. Mrs. Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
Man, things have been going good, huh?
Yeah.
We got some great stuff going on, don't we?
We do.
All right. So I'm going to announce it in the beginning.
You are?
Here's what I'm going to announce. Mrs.
Whoa.
Weedman and I are throwing a party April 24th. We have 50 extra tickets. If you reach out and DM us or you email us and you know our handles, and I'll give them to you at the end of the show, we'll send you and a guest a ticket to come to our weed extravaganza on April 24th. So reach out to us. If you can make it, it'd be great. We'll send you an invite in Eventbrite. So, and then you'll know what we're doing when you get the invite. We don't want to talk about it yet, but you'll know. But we're inviting 50 people to come to our party.
It'll be first come, first serve.
Yes. So hopefully you can make it. But like I said, reach out. It'd be great. We were pretty high the other night. We were on some edibles. We ate a bunch of edibles. And we were watching Curb Your Enthusiasm. We just started watching that show. We're on season 2. My goodness, that show.
Oh, my gosh.
It drives me nuts. Either I like it or I hate it.
It's just so funny. It's so funny, but oh my God, he's just a nut.
Oh, crazy, crazy. If you haven't watched that show, my God, he was one of the writers on Seinfeld, and it is, oh my goodness, there's like parts of the show I just want to like go brazy and just like go nuts and crazy. It's just, oh my goodness. So it's funny show, but oh my God, the stuff that he talks about. You were saying something about the show, like something that you like people would think about or think about saying and don't, or
yeah, it's like all the things that normal people would do in their normal day. Maybe not everybody would do, but just very typical day-to-day life, mundane day-to-day life, running errands and things, stopping for lunch with a friend. And he just says the things that maybe pass through your mind, but you wouldn't say it because you'd be like, oh my God, I'd be a real idiot if I said this. He just says it. He burns bridges with everybody, but then nobody ever really seems to dislike him at the same time.
Oh, man.
And he doesn't demonstrate his wealth in any way. He just dresses very like LL Bean-ish and casual, and it's just funny.
It's a funny show.
But frustrating, yes. Sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, what... Stop it.
We took a break for it from a couple
days.
days.
I was like,
the episode we watched frustrated me so bad. I'm like, I need to take a break.
I got a break.
So if you haven't watched it, or if you
Larry
have,
David.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, crazy. So I'm going to smoke. And Mrs. Weedman's still doing edibles for about another week or so, but I'm smoking Florida Orange. It is a hybrid, indica dominant hybrid with key lime, surprise, and clementine. It smells like an orange. I mean, it's crazy. The total cannabinoids is 28.29%. Very big for an indica. Some of the terpene content is beta-carotene, limonene, linalool, myrcene, and alpha-humulene. Strain properties, pain relief, stress relief, and sedation. So I'm going to smoke this in a minute here, but I'm going to do this one article, and then Mrs. Weedman will go, and I'm going to smoke, because I need to smoke. So do you know the difference between cannabis strains, phenotypes, and cultivars? Are cannabis strains and cultivars the exact same thing at the end of the day? This is a 3-part series, so I'm going to talk about this one first and then The other 2 articles I'll do week episode to episode. So when shopping for cannabis strains, you'll notice that there are many other terms that are used to describe them. These include phenotypes, chemotypes, genotypes, and cultivars. These are also important terms to know if you want to grow your own cannabis. Cannabis strains and cultivars. Cannabis strains are the variation names formed by cultivars and any offspring that has resulted from these modified plants. They can be produced through regular breeding or other modern methods. Sometimes they can also occur through genetic mutations. Ooh, mutation. A cannabis strain name such as Blue Dream, Afghan Kush, or Sour Diesel refers to the characteristics retained by the strain. There are almost 1,000 cannabis strains known today, which further classified into one of 3 categories: sativa, indica, or hybrid. Remember, that's the gene of the plant. It's not. I know we're so brainwashed today that sativa is an up, indica is a down, hybrids all around. Just remember, sativa, hybrid, indica are the style of the plant. Generally speaking, sativa cannabis strains are known for their energizing, uplifting qualities when consumed, while indica strains are more sedating and relaxing, suitable for nighttime use. Meanwhile, hybrid strains combine effects of both. With cannabis use becoming more widespread around the world, there is always a new strain to try and look forward to as breeders explore making their own. It is a fun time in cannabis right now, especially if you're a home grower. Man, finding good breeders, finding good phenos, great beans. It's a lot of fun. I probably in the last couple of months, I probably bought like 6 or 7 different type of phenos and can't wait to grow them. And, I don't have a big enough tent to grow all the strains that I've bought, but it's fun. And especially when you're really, really pheno hunting, it's a lot of fun. Botanically speaking, strains and cultivars refer to the plant that are sexually breeded by seed propagation. Selected plant seeds, such as those chosen because they express certain characteristics, are used to create another generation. During sexual reproduction of cannabis plants, mutations can occur through they usually affect just one plant, which the breeder can usually remove from the rest of the population. At the end of the day, both cannabis strains and cultivars are exactly the same thing. Scientists tend to use the term cultivars when strains are a more popular mainstream term. When shopping around for cultivars, here are some things to think about or ask the breeder. Genetic lineage. Understanding the genetic lineage of a cultivar will help you identify any of that are familiar. There are also numerous phenotypes possible for cultivar, so it isn't enough to know them by name. Yes, I do have to admit that it is very tough because when you're there's so many different names of these phenos that you're hunting that a lot of time you don't know what the phenotypes. I'm sorry, not the phenotypes. The total terpene content and flavonoids are and stuff that you're looking for, unless you're really talking to the breeder and he knows. So, laboratory testing. If you're interested in learning about a strain's effects in detail, laboratory tests will be able to tell you more specific about its THC, CBD content, as well as cannabinoids and terpenes. Effects. The way to know the effect of a cultivar is to research what consumers say. This will help you understand if you have specific needs that the strain can or can't meet, and if other consumers are able to satisfy their needs with that strain. And a good place to start, though, people will all have varying effects because there are other factors that impact how we feel when they consume a strain, such as our own endocannabinoid system, which is different from the other people's endocannabinoid system. Leaf variety. In some cases, you can easily tell the leaf variety by looking at the plant. Other times, it won't be as obvious, so you would have to ask. It has big fat buds. They are likely to possess the same genotypes and phenotypes as broadleaf cultivars, BLV, with those with long, thin buds and leaves will have characteristics of a narrow-leaf cultivar, NLV. Cultivar shapes and sizes. Aside from the psychoactive characteristics, cultivars and strains are also identified by the physical characteristics. As mentioned, there are broadleaf BLV cultivars, which are fat and bushy plants with wide leaves, with the narrow leaf NLV are skinny and lanky plants with thin leaves. Broadleaf plants are known to have sedating and calming effects, while narrow leaves are uplifting and energizing. Keep in mind that these are common effects that are associated with said cultivars. It's not limited to these. They do guide the phenotypes and varietals that breeders want to grow, though. For these reasons, breeders now can create strains or cultivars that are uplifting and energizing while being mildly sedating. This has led to a growth of hybrid cultivar market where you can now buy many back crosses and mixes for uniquely enjoyable experiences. Phenotypes, genotypes, and chemotypes. Earlier, we mentioned that cultivars or strains are classified based on their observable effects, uplifting, sedating, etc. These phenotypes are essentially the obvious traits of a plant, which are associated with the effects they have on the consumer. On the other hand, a genotype is the genetic makeup of the plant and its internal blueprint, which was passed down from the ancestors. A genotype indicates the list of possible characteristics that a plant may have and pass on to its offspring through a cannabis genotype will be influenced by the environment in which it's grown. The overall smell, shape, and color of the plant will all be impacted by the environment in which cannabis has been grown. A chemotype refers to the chemical makeup of the plant or what chemical components and cannabinoids are found as well as its quantity. Specifically, this would tell you how much CBD or THC a plant has, as well as its cannabinoids and terpenes. There are around 85 known cannabinoids, all of which have various health benefits and effects which terpenes contribute to the unique smell of the strain as well as the influence in the therapeutic and psychoactive effects. Differences in the same cannabis strain. It's uncommon for you to discover that upon buying another batch of Lemon Kush, it tastes, looks, and feels different from the last batch you bought, which you have absolutely loved. This can happen because environment and genetics will affect the strain. Thus, the end result is a plant expressing different phenotypes. Now that you know more and are armed with information, you are ready to start experimenting with growing your own or perhaps trying a new cannabis cultivar. I've read about these in the past. This is just another article I read. I thought it was really interesting, and I was actually talking to West about some strains because I was looking for some nighttime sleepy sleep stuff to grow. I was asking him his opinion on some things and asking him if he could find me some stuff, and he was asking me what kind of terpenes I was looking for, what kind of taste and flavor profile I was looking for. So I found this article too, and I thought it would help me even more learn about growing, and hopefully it helps you. So I really enjoyed it, and I cannot wait to smoke because Mrs. Weedman is going to talk to you about some of the most important people in the cannabis industry, the budtenders. Anyway, I've talked about budtenders before, but this is about how to become one. And to me, the budtenders are the most important people in a dispensary. Right, Mrs. Weedman?
Yes.
Did that live resin edible kick in?
Oh, boy. Can you see it in my face?
Oh, as soon as you looked up at me.
I don't even
and you've been
know where
sitting
I'm
there
at.
patting Yuki for like the last 5 minutes, like
I've
just
got
really rubbing her down.
This dog on my lap, and she is so freaking cute. Oh, my God. And she's passed out cold, like floppy as a noodle. She's letting me, like, rub her paws. She's just mush. Oh, she's
We've
dream.
been putting lots of pictures of Yuki on,
She's a little
on
dream.
Instagram, so
Okay,
she's a cutie.
back to the story. Sorry. What is a budtender, you might be asking? And if you may know what a budtender is, maybe you're asking, how could I become one? For many people, simply, ooh, Yuki got startled. Simply being surrounded by weed all day is a dream come true. But what if you could get paid for it? If you can't get enough of learning about different types of strains, CBD and THC ratios, terpenes, and grow facilities, you might be a perfect candidate to be a budtender. Budtenders, in essence, are people who work at dispensaries and speak with customers about different strains and accessories. They are experts in their field, are usually certified, and represent the brand of their companies. But the term budtender is relatively new, so there's still a lot of confusion about what it means. So what is a budtender? We all know what a bartender is, but most importantly, people aren't familiar with budtenders. It's a new kind of role that emerged as a result of cannabis legalization efforts in many states. Because some states still outlaw the use of recreational cannabis, people sometimes aren't totally familiar with what a budtender does. Budtenders, like bartenders, are the people who work in the cannabis stores or the dispensaries. They stand behind the counter and greet people as they enter, and as people look over the dispensary's menu, they give explanations of different products and guide customers' purchasing decisions based on their needs. Budtenders aren't cashiers. They are the experts who are more knowledgeable than an average retail store worker. Similar to how bartenders need to go through training for the role, budtenders have to have specialized knowledge to work in a cannabis store. They need to know about cannabis and have the social expertise to identify what customers want from a product. Sometimes people know exactly what they want from cannabis, such as relief from pain. But people who are new to cannabis and are not using it for a specific medical condition may not know exactly what they want from the product. In these cases, it becomes the budtender's job to ask the right questions to reveal the optimum product for that person. Budtenders also need to figure out how much customers know about cannabis. They should be able to comfortably chat about different pipes and accessories, making sure customers understand how to properly enjoy weed. A good budtender, for instance, will make sure new customers purchase grinders if they purchase flower, as many people may not know the steps they need to take before smoking. How much do budtenders get paid? In 2019, the average U.S. budtender salary was deemed $14.90 per hour.
Not enough.
No, plus tips. But since the laws on cannabis vary state by state, there's no one budtender salary across the U.S. In California, they will not make the same amount as Michigan because the difference in the price of cannabis in these two states, state taxes, and other factors. If you want to get the most accurate estimate on what budtenders earn in your location, look up reports for budtender salaries in your state. Salaries. And I think I am hungry. Did I say salad? Look up reports for budtender salaries in your state. What do you need to become a budtender? Well, you don't need a college degree to become a budtender, but getting a certificate in budtending will open doors for you. There are certificates
like Moraine Valley Community College did the retail specialist course. It's really well done.
Yeah. Budtender certification shows that the person behind the counter knows what they're talking about. The test has to do with the cannabinoid system and the benefits of different strains. People who pass the test are immediately more hireable at dispensaries across the U.S. People with certifications should be able to talk about how the endocannabinoid system affects the whole body. They should be able to discuss the chemical differences between sativa and indica. This knowledge will help them guide people toward products that are the best suited for them. Budtenders play an important role in the larger picture of the cannabis industry. They are the first faces people see when they start learning about cannabis. They represent the years of work and progress that made the job possible. Most budtenders understand this and take their job seriously. They are helping build a whole new career path. So if someone asks them a question or wants help in the cannabis dispensary, they are there with an answer. A budtender is not a pothead or someone who just wants to be surrounded by weed all day. They are experts in a new industry who know that the work they do is important. Without budtenders, people new to cannabis would be lost in dispensaries and could easily end up using something that gives them adverse effects. We can safely say we owe a lot to the budtenders in the world. Yep.
Hell yeah. Most important people. Pay them well, please. They deserve it.
They do.
Which extraction method is best? It may not be what you think. Cannabis terpenes have been a hot topic in the industry for the last several years. Gone are the days of flavorless distillates causing substandard user experiences. Thank God. Today's more seasoned and educated extract consumer demands the effects, flavors, and aromas indicative of the original plant material. That means capturing the terpenes native to the source. As the head of research effort of Green Mill's Supercritical, the extraction of terpenes is one of the most exciting and promising areas of the cannabis industry. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of terpenoid compounds that have been identified in cannabis, spanning different classes such as monoterpenes, I'm going to butcher this word, sorry everybody, sesquiterpenes, diterpenes, and more. Due to their impact of flavor, effect, and efficiency, terpenes are increasingly sought by cannabis connoisseurs, thoughtful consumers who care about the taste and smells of the product they inhale. Students of terpene science, whether they think of it the way or not, are noticing the results of some extraction processes or another. Shatter, wax, butter, rosins, resins, diamonds, and vape products are all types that are extracted. The range and concentration of terpenes and cannabinoids within the profile of the product are determined to a large degree by the extraction process used. Terpene extractions are not novel, but new technologies enabling the production of full-spectrum terpene profile with none of the downside typically found in most common extraction methods. Based on recent validation of the technology, it seems apparent that supercritical CO2 is the superior solvent method for the extraction and isolations of light volatile compounds from any botanical biomass. To help you make a wise decision as you try to find the products that match your discriminating taste. Here are the most common used extraction methods. Steam distillation. The centuries-old process of steam distillation is conducted by adding heat to a reservoir of water in a still. The heated water will then generate steam, which in turn is diffused through a matrix of botanical material to volatiles, the light volatility compounds, V's. These compounds are then carried through the still to a condenser where the water solubles, and terpenes can be collected and separated. The major problem with steam distilled terpenes is that they are adding a lot of thermal stress, temps as high as 100 degrees Celsius, to the thermally liable compounds, potentially causing degradation, although steam distillation has been the go-to method for terpenes extraction for ages. It has some clear disadvantages in the pursuit of obtaining terpene isolation true to the source material. Vacuum distillation. Vacuum distillation is a process in which the boiling point of all compounds is lowered when a vacuum is introduced into the reaction vessel of the distillation system. A lowered boiling point should mean being able to run at a lower temperature to get the same results, but this turns out to be true only if you are targeting the lower boiling point monoterpenes. To target a full profile of both mono and sesquiterpenes, the heat again needs to be raised under vacuum. Man, that word is hard. Sesquiterpenes. I know terpenes, but the sesquit, how do you pronounce that? Sesquit? You're stoned.
I don't even know. I can't help you right now. I'm taking my blood pressure. I'll explain later.
You should take Yuki's blood pressure too. As a marketer, let us consider the humulene C15 atomic weight terpene found in both hops and cannabis. The compound boiling point under normal atmospheric conditions is around 260 degrees Celsius. Under vacuum conditions as low as 5 mmHg, the compound still requires a temperature of around 105 degrees Celsius to reach the boiling point. Concerns over the thermal degradation of lower molecule weight, thermally liable monoterpenes still apply here. Organic solvents, ethanol, propane, and butane. Ethyl alcohol is a poor solvent for terpene extraction because you cannot selectively extract and isolate the terpene compounds. And ethanol extraction pulls out both the terpenes and cannabinoids, requiring the solvent to be purged, which can cause the loss of degradation of the light monoterpenes from the overall profile. The situation with the hydrocarbon gases, propane and butane, is much better compared to ethyl alcohol, as they are easy to purge post-extraction. This is why there is prevalence of high terpene hydrocarbon extracted products in the cannabis market. Unfortunately, the hydrocarbon solvents are not able to isolate the terpene compounds alone, making it extremely inefficient. One reason consumer products are so expensive. The technology also uses a highly flammable solvent derived from fossil fuels. Dun, dun, dun. In recent years, liquid carbon dioxide, also known as supercritical CO2, has been a popular solvent for terpene extraction in the cannabis space. Liquid CO2 requires temperature below 31 degrees Celsius. However, when conducting a liquid CO2 extraction, the solvent density will always be above 0.800 gml. The higher the density means a liquid CO2 extraction for light volatiles will always co-extract other compounds such as cannabinoids and waxes, which will dilute the terpene fraction and affect the terpene extract quality, increasing viscosity and darkening the color of the extract significantly. So there are some extraction methods for terpenes that, as I learn more, I find science is so interesting.
Did you just triple repeat?
Triple repeat. You like
Wow.
that? That was pretty good.
I wasn't sure. That was pretty good. That was clever. Oh my goodness. Yuki, what's wrong with Mr. Weedman?
How do you curb that?
Jeez Louise.
How do you curb that cough?
That does happen.
I know. How do you curb it, Mrs. Weedman?
Well,
tell us about it.
Okay. Anyone who has smoked cannabis has probably experienced a coughing fit at one time or another. Yuki got a little scared on that one.
She did get a little
It's all right,
scared.
girl.
Sorry, I didn't mean
It's
to wake
okay.
you, Yuki.
Well, how can you curb it, right? Coughing is the body's go-to response whenever we inhale the smoke. We're going to explore why smoking weed makes you cough and how to reduce your cough. The throat and lungs The throat and lungs inside the human body are lined with sensory nerves whose job it is to detect the presence of irritating substances. Whenever a person inhales an irritant, the sensory nerves transmit a signal to the entire respiratory tract. The signal results in a cough reflex intended to eliminate the irritants. This cough reflex aims to help protect the respiratory tract and the lungs. What causes the cough? Well, first, smoke. As I mentioned, smoke is the leading reason for coughing when smoking weed. Although cannabis use hasn't been directly linked to lung cancer, its smoke does contain irritants that trigger a cough response. Continued weed use can lead to cough-inducing inflammation and increased mucus levels. Increased mucus production ultimately stimulates the cough as the body attempts to eliminate the irritants. 2 would be irritant products. Smoking poor quality or counterfeit cannabis concentrates will definitely cause a person to cough. Soil particles, residual pesticides, mildew, and all other random particles that may have hitched a ride on your flower will make the smoking experience downright awful. 3, hit size. Big-bodied smokers are better positioned to take much larger hits. On the other hand, small-bodied individuals may want to consider taking hits that are in line with their physique. All individuals have varying lung capacities. Therefore, filling the body with more smoke than it can handle will lead to excess coughing. Bong and dab rig users are at a greater risk of taking hits that are bigger than their natural build. 4, heat. Excessive heat may also lead to coughing fits, regardless of the smoker's preferred method of enjoying cannabis. For example, when you heat a high-temperature dab or take fire to a bowl, you're heating your weed to about 538 degrees Celsius. Even though the water inside the bubbler, bong, or dab rig will help cool the vapor down, there's still a chance that the user is inhaling something extremely hot into their lungs. The heat can easily irritate the sensitive tissues in their throats and lungs. Irritation in this area, in return, leads to prolonged coughing. So how can you cough less when smoking weed? Well, many beginners and experienced weed smokers agree that coughing is the least enjoyable part of smoking cannabis. However, the following tips should help reduce the coughing fits when engaging in a smoking session. 1. Always keep liquid beverages close by when smoking. It's advisable to have liquids close by whenever you're engaging in a smoke session. The preferred drink is a glass of water, not an alcoholic beverage. Take a drink from it before the smoke session, during, and immediately after. Veteran users can also chew gum or suck on hard candy to help increase saliva production. Proper hydration assists in reducing the impact of coughing symptoms, particularly among heavy smokers. 2. Stick to edibles. Although many weed users believe that smoking weed often leads to a faster acting high, the truth is that smoking isn't the only way to consume cannabis. Edibles provide a good workaround for those who don't mind waiting for the high and who would rather not deal with the effects of a coughing fit. I'm eating an edible tonight, and it works. There is no coughing, for sure. 3, try using a vaporizer. Vaporizers are excellent cannabis smoking accessories. The best part about these is that they don't require the user to combust any product. Weed vapes work by heating the cannabis to a point where there's a thick cloud of THC vapor without combusting. Using a vaporizer means not worrying about any hot or rough smoke. Also, vaping doesn't waste a lot of product compared to smoking. I like that little vaporizer we have. It's such a different.
I think I'm gonna buy a PAX.
Yeah, it's such a different process. Like you get the flavors. It's just different. You don't
Depends on
blow a
what
big.
heat setting I put it at too, but I think I'm gonna break down and buy a PAX.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, I saw someone over the
I
weekend
like that
smoking out of it.
volcano thing too.
Oh, the volcanoes are the best. Yeah. But those take a lot of weed and they're big bags and they're fun to do at parties.
Yeah. Well, they make that one that's like a glass
That's true.
volcano, right?
That's
Isn't
true.
it glass?
Yeah, but it's different.
It looks like a beaker.
Yeah, but there's the volcanoes that have the big
They're
bags.
fabric.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's pretty
those
dope.
are cool.
But yeah, I think I might break down and buy a PAX. There's the other one someone sent me to about Crafty, and those look kind of good too. But I think the PAX is I talked to somebody this weekend about it, and they swear by it, and I was so hesitant because I've seen so many people use them for a while and they toss them away.
Why?
they just get tired of them after like a year or so, and they say they don't get high off it anymore. They don't like it anymore. I don't know. But the person I was talking to over the weekend about it has had hers for like 3 years and swears by it.
Yeah.
So I think I'll break for you especially too. I think you might like the packs. Mm-hmm. So go ahead, finish up. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. I'm reading, aren't I? Okay. Got to get my glasses back on. All right. Number 4, stop holding it. Some smokers believe that holding in the weed after inhalation helps give it extra time to work. This is a common misconception, though. The body begins absorbing the cannabinoids as soon as smoke is inhaled. As such, holding in smoke doesn't produce an extra high, but it can lead to lightheadedness and dizziness. So that can help you.
Yeah, breathe it in, like Mr. Miyagi said, in
and
out, in and out. Thanks, Mr. Miyagi. Things to know. The House of Representatives voted to federally legalize cannabis. The bill now leads to the Senate, where Majority Chuck Schumer will soon file his own cannabis bill. All right, the MORE Act got passed again. Now go to the Senate when they have their own agenda to pass their own bill. So it's dead in the House. So everyone's all excited that the House did it again. I'm not excited about it because I knew it was a bunch of fucking horseshit the moment they passed it, because I knew once it got to the Senate, and you don't even know what Biden is going to do either. So neither parties or the Senate or the House are coming together to write a bill together in an extraordinary history to get it off, to deschedule it, to stop this war on drugs, to help the 40,000 nonviolent cannabis crime victims in prison. I just get so tired every time I read it. So White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said President Joe Biden agrees with most Democratic lawmakers that our current cannabis laws are not working. Then why don't you fucking fix it? But declined to specify if he supports the legalization bill the House passed hours earlier. Of course. So fix it. Fix it. White House, days after approving legalization, the House of Representatives set to vote today, actually, on a bill to remove barriers to conducting cannabis research, including by allowing access to dispensary products. The Senate passed separate cannabis science legislation last month. The Maryland House of Delegates and Senate officially voted to put cannabis legalization referendum on November ballot and send Governor Larry Hogan a separate bill to begin implementation of voters approved to reform. A large number of lawmakers waited on the reaction of the House passing a federal cannabis legalization bill, noting the Senate's failure to act on cannabis. For example, bill sponsor Representative Jerry Nadler said, "Sometimes I think we're better off if we didn't have a Senate." So nothing will ever come through. There were so many amendments in the bill, the MORE Act, that the Republicans and senators, Republicans and Democrats were putting in the MORE Act. So many changes to what the original bill was. It made me throw up when I read. I didn't even want. I looked at them and I said, I'm not even going to read these on the show, because it was like 20 of them, maybe more, and they were all just absolutely fucking ridiculous. So, Cannabis Caucus Chair Representative Dave Joyce explained in a Cannabis Moment op-ed why he's not willing to vote for the only cannabis legalization bill that's moving in Congress. Washington State's treasurer sent a letter urging counterparts in other states to help pressure Congress to pass cannabis banking amid the spate of deadly robberies as large cash dispensaries we've talked about so many times. Here's a crazy guy. Senator Lindsey Graham said he doesn't support legalizing cannabis, but he does see value at legitimacy in medical cannabis. Oh, God. It's crazy. Marjorie Taylor Greene, representative, said she's unaware of psychedelics legalization advancing in the Georgia legislature. Pennsylvania Democrat Senate candidate John Fetterman, currently lieutenant governor, tweeted, "Today the House passed the MORE Act. It's a step in the right direction to end the racist war on drugs. Like I always said, just legalize weed already." I like this guy. Remove from Schedule 1, expunge convictions. Common sense home grow. Haven't I been saying that? Mm-hmm. We've been doing a show now. We're on episode 92. And I don't think I've not said it at least within like 5 episodes at a time. So this guy here, 2 bongs up, baby, because it's exactly what should just be done. Remove from Schedule 1, expunge convictions, common sense home grow. Free the plant. Oh, Indiana Democrat Senate candidate.
2 bongs up.
2 bongs up. Indiana Democrat Senate candidate Thomas McDermott tweeted, "A U.S. House of Representatives passed legalized cannabis. Now the bill heads to the U.S. Senate, where its fate is much less clear." Does Sen Todd Young support legal cannabis? Because I do. Texas Democrat congressional candidate Jessica Cisneros criticized incumbent Republican Representative Henry Sellier, that's Democrat Texas, for voting against the cannabis legalization bill, tweeting, "I've seen the consequences cannabis charges have done in my community and clients I've worked with, families torn, deportations, lost jobs and housing. The list goes on and on." Meanwhile, Representative Sellier sees criminalization as a way to line the pockets of his private prisoners donors. There you go. South Carolina Republican congressional candidate Katie Arrington criticized incumbent Representative Nancy Mace for flip-flopping by voting against the a cannabis legalization bill. I think she flip-flopped because she wrote a bill too and she liked hers better. So there you go. The House bill to require the Department of Veteran Affairs to study medical cannabis got 2 new co-sponsors for a total of 6. Utah Governor Spencer Cox signed legislation on employment protections for medical cannabis patients and adding acute pain as a qualifying condition. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt signed a bill prohibiting medical cannabis grow operations from being located within 1,000 feet of schools. Wow, that's weird. I didn't even know that in that state you could at that time. Jared Polis, Colorado, and Denver's mayor appeared at the opening of the city's first licensed cannabis hospitality establishment. That's cool. Washington State Governor Jay Inslee tweeted, "I applaud the House for passing the MORE Act and bringing it one step closer to decriminalizing cannabis nationally as a critical, urgent issue of equity." Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers said that the state should join its neighbors in legalizing cannabis. Yeah, come on, Governor. New York Governor Kathy Hochul tweeted, "Decriminalizing adult use cannabis is about righting historic injustices. Thank you, the House, for passing the MORE Act." Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf tweeted, "Today in New Mexico, the sale of legalized cannabis began." I have an article about that, man. They killed it their first weekend. South Carolina Democrat gubernatorial candidate Joe Cunningham, a former congressman, tweeted, "Today's Congress will vote on the MORE Act, which decriminalizes cannabis at the federal level. I proudly voted for this bill when I was in Congress, and when I'm a governor, I'll legalize cannabis on the state level." Good for you. Connecticut's Attorney General approved regulatory's proposal on allowable amounts of mold and yeast in cannabis, with the issue to set to go before the legislative regulation review. This shouldn't be. We've talked about mold on the last episode. Man, you got to just, hopefully you did it right. Michigan's Attorney General spoke on the Hash Bash event, and I read an article on it. I heard it was very good. Hash Bash, baby. New Jersey's top cannabis regulator disputed the idea that there have been a delay in launching recreational cannabis sales, saying that the other states have rushed and seen supply issues. Arizona Court of Appeals reversed the decision to put medical cannabis patients on a list of child neglectors and abusers because she used cannabis during pregnancy. Oregon regulators are accepting public comments on revised proposed psilocybin rules. Massachusetts regulators launched a social media campaign about cannabis consumer responsibility ahead of 420. Good stuff. Opinion. Cannabis momentum in 2022. They're looking to the Midwest as the momentum is growing in the Midwest big time, and you're going to see a big movement on the East Coast too. So, New York recreational cannabis market will generate more than $2 billion in sales a year by its 4th year, for example. But cannabis multi-state operators should think about setting their sights a bit further west. States like Michigan, Missouri, Nebraska, and Ohio. Midwest remains America's cannabis capital. With all the coastal buzz, it's easy to forget the established Midwest markets such as Illinois and Michigan are consistently among the top of cannabis revenue. Yes, they are. Much of the revenue is generated by the MSOs and have helped establish clear business guidelines across the state. More independents need to be in Illinois. Northeast moment is coming, just not this year. Some of the states haven't opened yet for recreational, but New York's going to be huge. Good lordy. It's going to be so much weed being smoked there and so much weed being bought there. Future, watch the Mid-Atlantic. Executives would be wise to pay attention to the Mid-Atlantic region, particularly Maryland and Pennsylvania, where support for legalization reform is high. Long-term, Florida. Yeah, man, that's going to be the state above all. When that state goes rec fully, it's going to be gang. You're talking about, there's like 20 million people down there now, or 18 million people down there, and then with tourism, you got another like 20, 30 a year that go down there. How much money is that state going to bring in? It's going to be friggin' ridiculous. They just need to pass it though. Just get recreational. So it's all going to be about legalization and stuff like that, and legislation is key to all these states and all the East Coast, West Coast, Mid-Atlantic, South, the Midwest. It's just going to be good stuff. Here's something cool. If Michigan deschedules cannabis, will other states follow? I would hope so. As prohibition persists at the federal level, a new bill floated by the Michigan legislature asked a bold question: can individual states deschedule cannabis at the state level? And if they do, what exactly will they accomplish? So many gray areas are still left unresolved in this bill that they're talking about, but national legalization experts are similarly aware of the remnants of the drug and war laws left struggling but alive in wake of standardized legalization. When you draft a ballot initiative, you're often constrained by the policies you can change. Deputy Director of Cannabis Policy Project, the MPP, told Leafly, Savage served as a director of Michigan's Proposition 1 campaign in 2018. It often is the case that ballot initiative doesn't fix every problem. They need a legislator to take action afterwards and essentially ensure that the other laws in the state align with the policy-approved voters. A veteran activist pushes for change. Representative Rabbi is no stranger to drug reform advocacy in Michigan. For years, he championed legalization in the state with emphasis on both racial justice and economic pragmatism. The war on drugs is a war against people of color, he told the crowd in Ann Arbor's Hash Bash in 2017. The reality is, whether you like it or not, people are using cannabis. Prohibition doesn't work. I like him. What would descheduling accomplish at the state level? Rabbi argues that HB 5877 could have a larger impact on residents to day-to-day lives than federal descheduling. A lot of people don't realize that federally scheduling, there's also a state schedule, he explained. There are a dozen laws connected to the state schedule. Even if there was successful effort in Washington to deschedule cannabis, it still would not necessarily change the state law books. Whoa, did not realize that. Federal scheduling limits the scope of statewide descheduling. While HB 5877 can make a huge impact on Michiganders' lives, it remains an imperfect solution. For instance, if the Michigan legislature passes the bill, federal law would continue to prohibit gun owners from legally possessing cannabis. He also acknowledged the bill does not prohibit an employer from drug testing their employees, although descheduling would come into play if an employer required testing for state-scheduled substances specifically. Interesting stuff there, Michigan. Hopefully you do it. Illinois Senate committee abruptly halts debate on bill to protect workers who test positive for cannabis. So it passed the House in Illinois, and then it got to the Senate, and they stalled it, and he goes, we'll talk about this at another time. So that's fucked up, man. They could have done something great here in Illinois. I was just reading about that not too long ago. You could have done something really brilliant, Illinois, with that. Not people letting people get fired for using cannabis off hours. Terrible. Illinois March sales. Items sold 3 million. It was actually March. This was the biggest month since the second or third biggest month in cannabis sales in Illinois since we went recreational. Crazy. $130 million, $960,000, $120 and 66 cents. $40 million of it coming out from out of state. $90 million in state. That's big. $130 million in March, because the first 2 months sucked. Sales were fucking garbage. So that's pretty big, Illinois. Lots of tax revenue. $40 million from out of state. How you feeling now, Wisconsin? How you feeling, Indiana? How you feeling, Kentucky? How you feeling, Iowa? You should all suck it, because we're getting all your money. Open up your states, baby. Here's something big. New Mexico went recreational over the weekend. Sales started over the weekend. Their first weekend, they surpassed 3.5 million in the first 3 days of sales. Way to go, New Mexico. And all you Texans going over to New Mexico and buying weed and bringing it back to your state, Texas, you fucked up. Could be keeping all that money, and you ain't doing it. Good job, New Mexico. Proud of you. Something crazy, because we talked about Alabama a couple of shows ago about saying that you have to show that you're not pregnant to get weed, right?
Right.
In Arizona, medical cannabis use okay during pregnancy if mom is under doctor's care. Court rules.
Huh. Crazy.
Nuts. Crazy.
The laws are just, not very uniform.
No. Medical cannabis bill in Tennessee falters. Oh, Tennessee. What's wrong with you? The legislation to legalize medical cannabis, HB 1968, was pulled by its sponsor because of lack of support. Man, don't pull it. Throw it on the table. Like you're throwing your balls out on the table. Do something about it. See if it sticks. The bill sponsors Democratic State Representative Bob Freeman. I guess he ain't that free. Lamented that Tennessee is lagging behind other states in the region in legalizing medical cannabis. States to the south of Tennessee, Alabama, and Mississippi legalized in the past year. And I wouldn't say Alabama really truly legalized it, except for fucking butt plugs. Or suppositories. To the east of Tennessee, North Carolina, lawmakers have been considering it, and to the west, Arkansas and Missouri have growing MMJ programs. So Tennessee, your man, has reportedly previously efforts to legalize medical cannabis in Kentucky, north of Tennessee, also have gone nowhere. Both chambers of Tennessee legislature dominated by Republicans, and measure was non-starter. Freeman said, despite the revenue medical cannabis could generate, Tennessee was projected to bring in $130 million a year in tax revenue from the medical cannabis program once it reached maturity, according to fiscal review of the bill. You know, the Democratic senator that took the bill away. You got to go across the table and talk to some people, man. There's people in that probably want cannabis. You got to go make friends. Something, you know. Something I just read today. South Carolina lawmakers here, Senate passed medical cannabis legalization bill in a committee. It's promising, but it's going to be one of the harshest medical laws in the country. I mean, it's going to be like so tight, like you could shit a diamond out of your ass if you put coal up there. That's how tight the medical laws are going to be in Carolina if they pass this bill. So, but at least it's a start. I'm not going to beat it up, but it basically just like it's there in a committee. Who knows? So it's got to get to a committee, then maybe another committee before it even hits the floor. So it's just, who knows? Baby boomers. Largest generation ever.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
The people from World War II, and they all came home and had lots of babies.
Well, boomers are rediscovering weed, it seems. The flower children of the past now use flower for different reasons. Seniors are turning to medical cannabis more than ever to treat chronic pain, and for good reason. A new study has concluded that not only does cannabis reduce pain levels, it also has the overall effect of improving seniors' quality of life. The Israeli study, published in the medical journal Frontiers in Medicine, found that seniors who use cannabis report a higher quality of life. Cannabis also helps seniors address specific conditions. For example, among patients with PTSD, 91% rated cannabis treatment as a success. Also, 84% of the patients with inflammatory bowel disease reported cannabis treatments as successful, as did 78% of patients with chronic pain. Overall, almost 71% of the seniors reported treatment success. There's less stigma around the plant. Stigmatizing something has a powerful effect. People over the age of 65 have spent most of their lives inundated with negative messaging about the use of cannabis, but that has changed radically in the past decade. With legalization sweeping large sections of the country, seniors now feel more emboldened to speak with physicians about the potential use of cannabis to address their health issues. A 2020 study found use had almost doubled among seniors between 2015 and 2018. According to the Harvard Medical Journal, a confluence of factors seems to be responsible, including the decrease in stigma associated with cannabis use and the increased interest in the use of medical cannabis by older patients. Stigma is a complicated issue, but most would agree that the stigma associated with cannabis use is lessening, especially for the medical cannabis. The effectiveness of cannabis is also a factor. For years, seniors have said they can better manage pain with cannabis, and in many cases, people have stopped using opioids once they started using cannabis. The cohort in the study from Israel included about 10,000 patients with an average age of 55 who used federally mandated cannabis products over 6 months. The most frequent diagnosis for members of the cohort were cancer, pain, or PTSD. In addition to the improvements for those with cancer, inflammatory bowel, and chronic pain, seniors reported a better quality of life. When the study began, only 13% of the seniors said they had a good quality of life. And after 6 months, the study number rose to 70%. That's huge.
That's big.
Went from 13% to 70% after putting cannabis into their routine. Happiness, just being a better quality of life. Also, about 40%.
That's what I want.
I know, right?
A better quality of life. Thanks, cannabis.
Also, about 40% of those who used opioids stopped using them.
Oh,
Huge.
Huge.
And 25%, I mean, this is a big study, 10,000 people. And 25% of those who used antidepressants were able to stop using them. The researchers concluded supervised medical cannabis treatment is associated with high adherence, improvement in quality of life, and a decrease in pain level with a low incidence of serious adverse effects. Boom. I mean, what's there to think about anymore? That's more good news for seniors who want to try medical cannabis for their conditions. It's also good for the cannabis business, focusing on serving this growing cannabis buying demographic. Huge.
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 International news. Africa's cannabis future. This article is pretty good. It's really long. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's very promising. The South African president, Cyril Ramaphosa, flashed a wicked smile at his Cape Town audience, miming the actions of a smoker, imaginary joint raised to his lips. He humorously confided his latest plan to kickstart sluggish growth. I didn't realize this. The plan is going mainstream, and here's something really cool. By 2023, the value of Africa's legal cannabis market could be at least $7 billion across 9 key African countries if they legalize recreational medical use, according to the African Cannabis Report from the Industry Analysis Prohibition Partners. Worldwide, the COVID-19 lockdown period saw record-breaking sales of cannabis in multiple regions. That's huge. I mean, that's a lot of money, and if they put their countries together, they can really, really like take over the world right now. And if they all came together and held hands in kumbaya and helped each other out. For many African countries that possess an ideal climate for growing the plant, these global trends represent a vibrant opportunity. Africa has been the leader in global production for several decades. It's got a huge comparative advantage. The plants can grow outdoors. They can grow multiple crops per year, says Chris Duval, professor of chair of geography and environmental studies at the Latin American and Iberian Institute of University of New Mexico and author of The African Roots of Cannabis. It says marijuana, though, so I don't want to beat up his title. Agricultural labor is inexpensive. Inputs are relatively inexpensive. Africa has a huge potential because their knowledge, their competitive advantage just in terms of ecology. Yet, despite Africa's apparent suitability for wide-scale cultivation, the United Nations estimates that over 38,000 tons of cannabis are produced illegally across Africa each year, and the plant's ingrained status in the culture of several African countries. It uses remains prescribed in it, but tiny handful of African nations. They're saying that this country in their Lesotho was one of the first African countries to grant licenses for the cultivation of cannabis for medical and scientific purposes, and now stands as a model of how Africa's cultivation ambitions can be realized, says Corbett. They also talk about in this article better regulations needed to finding a generous host country in which to cultivate is only part of the challenge of operating in a complex global cannabis supply chain defined by tangled regulation, exacting export standards and industrial scale competition in a developed world, particularly North America. Navigating the market requires persistence and expertise, says Mark Corbett. Also talking about unlocking the value. The instance of the strict product uniformity demanded by global regulators often work against smaller-scale African farmers who cultivate outdoors, where controlling temperatures, soil toxins, and other variables is much more challenging. And then they said freeing the domestic market, a way to increase opportunities that favored by cultivators both large and small, will be up to a free up African markets for domestic consumption. Several southern African countries permit medical use, but none have fully legalized recreational use, and the legal environment on the continent remains one of the most restrictive in the world. Really? It's crazy. Building the brand. Value addition can take many forms. Historical strains of cannabis grown on the continent, such as Durban Poison and Malawi Gold, first gained the following in the illegal market and now have acquired a valuable form of brand recognition. Durban Poison, man, that fucking strain kicks ass. So go Africa, man. Come together. Build that fucking cannabis industry that like you never have. Shining light on the Thailand cannabis community. This is something great. Because I talked about Thailand a couple articles ago, but there's some people now there that are building some really awesome brands, and one is called Chopaka. Kitty Chopaka, a cannabis advocate who tirelessly contributes to the legalization efforts in the Kingdom of Thailand, opened Chopaka, a terpene-infused gummy shop based in Bangkok, Thailand. She's one of the most acknowledgeable people regarding Thailand's legal cannabis status and works hard to educate those interested in learning the truth about the plant. Love it. Love it. Here's another one. OG Papers, as a cannabis consumer in Thailand, Kreet Cho saw that the rolling papers in the kingdom were commercialized. The products were only sold in supermarkets and large corporate stores. He decided he wanted to change that by starting OG Papers. Man, awesome. They're pretty cool looking papers, too, and the artwork on there is awesome. And they come in like Eco, Classic Slim, and Pre-Roll King Size. Let's see. Bloom. Bloom was conceived to solve one of the more significant issues in Thailand's cannabis community. A portal of cannabis quality, legal cannabis products. The kingdom's first green rush began in 2021, but most of the products were low quality and gimmicky with poor branding. When we first started Bloom, it was even hard for us to find quality products to put on the website, said John Williams, one of Bloom's co-founders. Quality companies were also having difficulty reaching the right audience. The company created its own line of cannabis products and established a network of trusted vendors. It offers getaway for these qualified vendors while serving their community while their products, education on the website, and answering questions 3 or 4 events monthly. Good for you, Bloom. I'm going to butcher this. The Nud King Puck Festival. The word Nud Kin Puck is a southern Thai language pronounced Nud Kin Puck. Nud translates to skilled, kin means to eat, and puck means vegetable. Together, these 3 words could be put to use to describe a group of people who are experts at eating vegetables. It started with my friends and co-founder Beer explained Nutawat Sawat Nut, one of the Nut Products co-founders. We started by making a bond cleaning product called Blue Magic. We saw their separation in Thailand's cannabis industry, an ongoing battle between high quality and compressed cannabis. The idea behind the event was to clear the stress and problems within the cannabis community, participating in the Green Party House in the Lat Far area. It grew into an event as friendships formed between the old and new generations. That's awesome. And it looks like a pretty cool event from what I'm seeing pictures of. So Thailand, keep on going, baby. Keep on being the leader. Keep on killing it. I want some Thai sticks, yo. Some Thai sticks. So we talked a couple episodes ago about not feeding your donkey cannabis. And you love cows.
I do love cows.
And you want a cow.
I want a cow.
So tell us about cows and cannabis or hemp.
Yeah, hemp. Feeding cattle hemp may lower their stress levels, according to a new study. The study was published by Kansas State University, and it says it may be beneficial to feed your herd industrial hemp. Their research shows a decrease in stress and an increase in time the cattle are lying down. The study found short-term feeding of industrial hemp with a high cannabidolic acid, or CBDA, content increases lying behavior and reduces biomarkers of stress and inflammation in Holstein steers. It focused on the effects seen in Holstein steers and determined that repeated daily doses of CBDA do not result in an accumulation of cannabinoids in blood, which means they don't linger in the meat. This solidified previous research that each type of cannabinoid has a unique absorption and elimination rate. Michael Kleinhens, assistant professor of beef production medicine at Kansas State University and author of the study, says the hemp not only may decrease stress indicators, but it also encourages animals to lie down, which helps cattle ruminate and produce saliva. Cattle experience a variety of stressors and inflammation, said Kleinhens. Our most recent data shows how cannabinoids via industrial hemp decrease the stress hormone cortisol, as well as the inflammatory biomarker progesteroglandin E2. Sorry. This shows that hemp containing CBDA may decrease stress and inflammation in cattle. Thus, hemp may be a natural way to decrease stress and inflammation related to production practices such as transportation and weaning. Kleinhens noted that the research could be essential for the industrial hemp and its byproducts, for them to be considered by the Food and Drug Administration and the Association of American Feed Control Officials. Further work is needed to determine if cannabinoids can alter the stress response in cattle during stressful times, such as transportation and weaning, but we hope this research is a step forward in the right direction, he says. Pretty interesting.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
pretty neat.
One of my favorite boxers of all time, Mike Tyson, and one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, and he is Ric Flair, the styling, profiling, limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling and dealing son of a gun, is partnering with Mike Tyson, their cannabis line. Woo!
Oh, jeez.
Ric Flair, baby, and Mike Tyson together. It was cool as a meeting. Muhammad Ali, Flair said. We've been friends for years. When Tyson was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2012, I was again the Four Horsemen. It was a great honor for all of us to be with Mike. Fast forward 30 years, and the two of us now are working together in a celebration of mutual passion, cannabis. Their new partnership in Tyson 2.0, Tyson's Cannabis Company, will consist of Ric Flair-themed concentrates, flowers, and consumables, all tested by the chief brand officer, Mike Tyson himself, of course. Go Ric Flair, go Mike Tyson. Woo! Styling and profiling, limousine riding. Son of a gun.
Is that the name of it? Woo!
No, that's just Ric Flair's like.
I know that's
signature.
his line, but I didn't know if they tried to like.
No, they should
spell that out.
They should make a line just called "Woo."
When you open the package, it has a little sound effect.
Oh, that would be
That'd be great.
amazing. You open the package.
Woo!
Woo! Well, good luck
That'd
to you,
be
Ric
great.
Flair. Oh, I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Like I said, oh man, I've watched him wrestle since I was a youngin', so oh my goodness. Mrs. Weedman,
Yeah.
got anything else to say?
Nothing.
Yuki was pretty good.
Yuki's doing good.
She's out cold.
Passed out.
Yeah, passed out. So, well, Yuki, thanks for being quiet. And just chilling and sleeping. You got anything else to say?
Nah.
Nothing? Nada?
Nope. Time for a snack.
Time for a snack. Hey, everybody out in the world, we love you. Peace be with you all. We love you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for all the emails and the DMs. And just, man, I appreciate you all out there. It does me proud. Like I said, 50 tickets. That's 100 people. Because you and a guest can come to our party. We're throwing a big weed party. BYOC. Bring your own cannabis, but also look for Mr. Weedman with his red cooler. DM us, email us. The first 50 people that get it, you get a ticket. So April 24th, 3 to 6 p.m., 420 smoke break. Come one, come all. All right, everybody, we love you. Don't forget to check us out. Weedman 420 Chronicles on Instagram. Weedman 420 Pod on Twitter. Say hello to Dog Boy. Weedman 420 Chronicles on TikTok. Weedman 420 Space Chronicles on YouTube. Send us an email, weedman420chronicles@gmail.com. Thank you, Emily, again from 97 ZOK, Zook, Zach, Zickety Zach. We appreciate you, Em. Thanks for the great article. It humbles me that you wrote that about me and Mrs. Weedman. We got you. Thank you all for listening around the world. As Paulie always says, smoke smart. Puff, puffing away.
Puff, puff, pass.